Hey everybody, welcome to 4x4 Camping and Adventures. Here in front of me I've got the 2016 Ford Wildtrack, and I'm going to give you an unbiased and honest review of the car. I'm going to go through its off-road credentials, on-road, all that sort of thing, go through the back, the front, the tray, and give you a bit of a review. Now there's a lot of different Wildtracks on the market, XLT, XLS, but the Wildtrack's a little bit unique. So you do get the unique colour, you do get the unique look, and there's some other unique features that are inside the vehicle, which we'll go through. But we'll have a look at the back of the vehicle and go through that. Now as this sits, this is a $70,000 vehicle, so it is in the sort of the top end of the market of utes, but as I say, it does come with unique features. As such, the owner's actually installed easy tailgate lift, so it actually makes this very, very heavy door nice and easy to lift. You can actually do it with one hand. And you have this, I'm going to say, garage door looking slider. That's what I'm going to put it towards. Now, low capacity is still pretty good. You get 907 kilos, which is a little bit less than the XLT, but it's still pretty versatile. Some things that I have noticed just looking at sort of the back of the vehicle is the rear tyre dam points are very, very sort of right at the back and hidden underway under this sort of big container that actually holds the slide out tonneau cover. So you do lose a fair bit of rear space, so you're really only going to have maybe about 40 centimetres in there as your rear cargo space. So the tonneau cover does look very nice, but it sort of seems to be a bit of form over function, because if you were to use this for a, even like camping, touring, you've sort of lost, I'm going to say about 20% of your rear cargo space just in that little bit of area, because you can't use it because it's essentially holding its own tonneau cover. Tie down points are pretty versatile. The rear ones are pretty hidden in the back, so you sort of get right in the back of the vehicle. I'm 6'2", quite tall, and getting inside of the vehicle is a bit of a hassle, so you're going to bust your back. Obviously you're trying to get things out. So if something's here, like let's say a heavy toolbox or an air compressor or whatever, you might find obviously it's a little bit hard to get out of it, but that's just the thing about utes. You know, they're not designed obviously for, I suppose, something like a Land Cruiser where you can just get in the back and grab whatever you want out. But there are things in the market you can fix that with slide out ute trays and that kind of thing. But what we're looking at, this is a stock vehicle. So the tie down points are down here. As I said, they're pretty hard to get to. There's two more just on the side here, and there's a 12-volt plug in the back. There's also a little LED light in the back here as well, so you can see what you're doing at night time. But the one thing I sort of want to point out on is the rear cargo space is good, but it's not fantastic. So what I keep getting back to is this tonneau cover system. If you had a canopy, it'd be all right. You're still gonna have trouble getting stuff like from the back, but it's a massive sort of box to hold its own sort of canopy, if you know what I mean, or its own tonneau cover. So looking at that, I think it's probably a bit of a fail on Ford's part. I mean, I know why they've done it. It's a lifestyle ute, and that's what they're selling it for. So, you know, chuck your bicycles in the back or whatever, but if you're using this for touring, there's something to definitely think of, because the owner of this vehicle did buy this car obviously to tour, so it's tows his caravan, so but something to look out for anyway. So just touching on some other things, this is a better angle of the actual rear of the tray. You can obviously lock this halfway down, so it doesn't have to go all the way back. Obviously you do have this sort of strap, which is sort of recommended to put on, and obviously so you can pull it back. This is all waterproof, so it's got drains here which obviously drain out. So it's done, they put some thought into it, but I've still got an issue obviously with the actual room you sort of get in there. Because I mean, we've got two chairs, gas bottle, compressor, some tools, and you're about 50% full because of this height here, because you're only going to get to here. So two toolboxes or even a, what's that, a 3.5 kilo or 4 kilo gas bottle really is obviously sort of maxing it out. So think about that obviously when you're buying the vehicle, and obviously just think about putting a canopy, so obviously taking away all this and putting a canopy on there instead of the sort of sports lifestyle look that they're sort of trying to go for. Now something I do want to touch on, this is 40,000 Ks, so you do get a little bit of gravel rash here. So from the standard mud flaps, maybe they're just not a little bit long enough, but essentially obviously you're going to get a little bit of gravel rash on the back here. It's not too bad for 40,000 Ks, but just something to sort of think about if you're buying this vehicle. Obviously you're not going to sort of see that in the normal reviews you get from most obviously car websites, but just something to think about. We are going to get a bit of gravel rash here, and this is black, so it's going to show up quite easily. So just something to think about. So the back of the Wildtrack, you've actually got a fair bit of room here. So looking at this, I mean, this is going all the way to the back. So I mean, I'm 6'2", and I mean, my knees are almost touching, but there's plenty of foot room, plenty of headroom. I mean, it's a big car, so you're definitely not going to be short in space. There's a baby seat in the back here, so that's going to give you definitely heaps of space. I mean, I was driving before, that's my position, so that's plenty of space for that. There's, you know, power points, that kind of thing, 12 volt. There's a 230 volt plug down here. You can sort of plug into a well, whatever you want to. I mean, it's 150 watts, so I wouldn't be plugging a coffee machine in there, but you can plug in things to recharge laptops, batteries, whatever you want to do. And as I said, it's quite nice in here. I mean, you've got plenty of headroom, plenty of sort of leg room. The seat is quite comfy. It'll drop down the middle, put your cups in there. So if you're doing a long distance in this, or let's say the boss has got this car and he's put you in the back, then yeah, you'd be pretty comfy in there. Seat's quite nice. They sort of got leather with a sort of an orange and black trim in here, but seats are quite nice. They actually sort of hold you nicely. The thing I don't like about leather in most cars is actually it gets really hot, but the benefit about this is actually the sort of black and orange stitching is where your butt and your legs are. So if you are going to get really warm, it's not going to get too warm with this cloth here. So, but in saying that, it's quite nice, you know, quite a nice place to be. All the interiors sort of had a little bit of upgraded trim. There's leather on the doors. There's sort of a little bit of a brushed sort of stainless steel look on the door handle. So you do feel like you're sort of in the top, the better top spec model. It doesn't feel like the sort of the POV-pack sort of base model, and they've just sort of, you know, chucked a leather interior in here. So it just does add to that sort of ambience in here. So the scene's changed a little bit. I mean, obviously back in the day, obviously, you know, your mum and dad would obviously buy a big Commodore or a big Falcon or a wagon. So nowadays obviously we're buying dual cab utes. So I mean obviously a Ranger ute, which obviously, you know, you can still buy the POV-pack, you know, chassis on body design, which is pretty much got nothing in it. But I mean, I'm sitting here in front of me with 2 screens, 8.2-inch touchscreen here. It's got adaptive cruise control. It's got lane assist and all that kind of thing. So it is a, I mean, this stuff was only sort of a Mercedes-Benz, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, and now I'm sitting in a Ford Ranger ute. So the actual features and technology in this car is actually pretty amazing, and obviously everything feels really nice. You've got leather up here, you've got leather here. All the sort of panels are really nice to touch, so it is actually quite a nice place to be in, and the seats are very comfy. They've got heated seats as well if you want, obviously, you know, living in somewhere colder. But I mean, it's such a nice place to be in. I mean, you feel sort of more like you're in an SUV than like a ute or something like that. So for props here, obviously for Ford, because they've done a really good job on the interior. Alright, so what do I think of the ride? Well, I still think it drives like an SUV. I don't really feel like I'm driving a ute. As you would know, if you've watched the channel before, I've got a Triton myself, and which is a bit more, let's say, agricultural than this Ranger. So it's pretty composed. I mean, I'm on a pretty smooth road now. I'm going to go find some sort of roads to sort of see if I can get the back end to skip out a bit, but it doesn't seem like it has that same, let's say, sort of long wheelbase ute sort of skippiness over the back end, even though it has a leaf rear end. So this has got airbags, so the owners obviously put airbags into the car, but obviously it still uses a leaf sprung rear suspension, and you just don't sort of feel it. You just feel like you're driving a big SUV, really. Obviously it's got electric steering, which, like most electric steering systems, don't really give too much feedback to the driver, but it's pretty weighted. It feels good. The steering wheel feels nice and handled. All the interior is nice to touch. I mean, I just feel like I'm like in a really nice, let's say, Ford Everest. Obviously the Ford Everest is based off this, but it's a really nice SUV to sort of sit in. It's got plenty of poke. It's quite, I mean, it's reasonably quiet. The engine's quite, you can still hear it, but it's quite subtle. But it's just a really nice car to sort of be in. A couple of things that that the owner and myself sort of talked about prior to jumping on and doing this video is there's a few sort of things that to me seem a little bit weird, but so things like obviously the main screen, which is a nice big 8.2-inch screen, does everything, which is good, and you can do voice commands, obviously, which in a perfect world probably works, but we don't live in a perfect world, unfortunately. So to give you an example, let's say I want to set the climate control to, what are we on, 20 degrees now, I want to go down to 18 degrees. You would obviously press the button, hopefully. No, doesn't anyone do that? Press the button. There we go.
Please say a command.
Climate control 18 degrees.
Climate on.
Okay, so that doesn't actually turn it to 18 degrees, this is turn the climate control on. Alright, let's have another go.
Please say a command.
Climate 18 degrees.
Try saying a device name like phone or USB. You can also say navigation or climate. Main menu. Say a command.
Cancel.
You can say a device name like audio, CD, or radio. Phone is always active, so you can say things like call John Smith. Main menu. Say a command.
Alright, so I'm just going to shut her up. Now, you can see there it said climate 18 degrees, and then she sort of said, say things like climate.
Try saying a device name like phone or...
I can actually shut her up, bear with me. Okay, hopefully she shut up now. No, she hasn't shut up. There we go. Alright, so you can see there I said climate 18 degrees, which she said climate, say things like climate, but obviously it didn't work too well. Now, the dial's right here, I can just turn the climate control to 18 degrees, but obviously the idea between Ford and obviously putting this system in is make your life easier, which I don't think it does. So, I mean, that's something that I think Ford could probably do a little bit better on if they're going to update the system. Maybe make the climate control system sort of work with the voice activated control. I mean, you can make phone calls, most cars can do phone calls these days. Obviously the Bluetooth and that side of things works pretty well. But I don't think it's quite there yet. Maybe it doesn't pick up my Aussie slang too well. But I mean, just press the button on the dash and 18 degrees climate control. So that seems to be easier. So we're doing 90 k's now. As you would know, this has got lane assist, it's got adaptive cruise control. There's a little light on the front of the dash there which picks up how far you're away from the car in front of you, and obviously preempts the brakes, or pre-primes the brakes obviously, so it, if you need to stop obviously in time, it's obviously going to have the brakes sort of pre-ready to go. But so these are all sort of driver's aids that make the car driving a little bit easier. And as I said, I mean, I'm doing 90 k's now. Yeah, it's a smooth, nice drive to be on. It's just, you just feel like you're driving a big car, which is something that I've driven Hiluxes, I've driven Amarocks, and they don't have the sort of, I don't think, the composure. And I mean, it still feels direct and it still feels nice, but it doesn't jump all over the road like a leaf-sprung truck does. I mean, my car, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got a lift kit in it, but before the lift kit, you go over a sort of a choppy bit of road, and the back end sort of feels like it's, you know, squabbling over the place. So you don't sort of get that with this car. So, you know, just something to sort of point out. So if you're doing long distance, you can get out of this car and you probably feel really refreshed after you get out of the car. You're not going to feel like, you know, you've done a 1,000k trip and, you know, you just sort of would go to sleep type thing. So, well, that's what the owner says anyway. I haven't driven this a long trip, but I know it might try, and if you're after a long trip, it definitely feels like you've done a long trip, if you know what I mean. It's quiet. The MVH in here is fantastic. The road noise is actually quite good. This is still running the highway trains on it. It's just a nice car to be in, really. You've got 12 volt plugs down here, so you can plug all your equipment in. You've got cubby holes everywhere, and yeah, what can I say? It's just a really nice car to drive in. So I mean, that sort of does it for the interior. As I said, you can do the sort of touchscreen. I mean, it's a touchscrreen, so it's going to do everything, obviously. But obviously, it does all your entertainment, does your radio, does your Bluetooth, and all that kind of stuff through there. But obviously, the main reason you sort of buy a vehicle like this is, you know, you're gonna either tour, or you're sort of going to go a little bit off road. So I think the sort of next step in the video, we'll go off road and sort of see what it, you know, feels like on the gravel roads. And then sort of maybe do a bit of a hill climb and see how it sort of fares with that, but I don't think it's going to have a real problem with it. But yeah, no, it gets up in boogies. It's actually got a pretty nice note to it, really, actually. So the engine note's actually quite nice, I quite like it. 5-cylinder, 3.2 litre. with 147 kilowatts and 470 newton meters of torque, so it definitely has the grunt to obviously, you know, get where you need to be, but it's nice and smooth. 6-speed gearbox, as I said, drives like a car. So yeah, drive fantastic. Alright, so a bit different on the gravel. This is a pretty standard road, but we're doing 40 k's, and again, I mean, it's still driving pretty well. There's probably a little bit too much pressure in the tyres. We spoke about that, but it's still, considering, it's actually pretty compliant, really, and this is actually quite corrugated. So definitely quite compliant on the gravel roads. So if you're going to be using this and gravel roads and that kind of thing, obviously going to be part of what you drive on every day, you could definitely say it's you know, quite a nice place to be in. I mean, it's still nice. I mean, I don't have to raise my voice or anything, and it's doing 50 k's an hour, and it's just nice and subtle. You still feel like you're in complete control. The good thing about the electric steering is it gets a bit heavier as you go faster, so when you're around town it's actually quite soft and smooth, and you can, you know, it's quite easy to move around. But obviously when you start going 100, 110 k's an hour, it hardens up and makes it a little bit more firm, so you feel like you're in control, which is a great thing of electric steering. But I mean, it's just eating up this gravel. Again, I just feel like I'm driving a Commodore, really, or a sort of big SUV. It's quite nice. So we're going to sort of take it along and get some little bit, I'm not going to say massive off-road because I don't own this vehicle, I'm not going to take it through its paces, but we're going to take a little bit up a bit of a hill and see how it goes, and, you know, see what's what. But I've read about these cars, and they're very, very capable off-road, and the articulation and that kind of thing from factory is actually really, really good. This might have a little bit less because it's got the airbags, and they're pumped up for the caravan that the owner drives. But obviously we'll still see what's what and all the rest of it, but it should be quite good. I think, yeah, that was quite a big hole, and a massive hole in the road, and didn't even feel like it's there. Alright, so we're doing a little bit of a hill climb, nothing too outrageous here. Should test out the articulation a little bit, hopefully. This seems a bit awkward. Or it's just going to bottom out.
Looks like it.
No, it's not going to test the articulation, it's just going to bottom out. So we'll have to go somewhere else up the hill. Yeah, it's bottomed out. Alright, we'll have to go around that bit. Just to be able to still get some articulation happening. Go around it.
What's going on? Should we go through that?
Not really. Do you want to jump out and have a look? Where are we hitting? Yeah, I literally just drove around it, so I wouldn't think. Where am I?
It's not bottom.
It's, see the front top here, and this left hand wheel is not getting enough grip. So
Yeah.
probably need a little bit more momentum, I'd say. Let me reverse. Got a little bit more mumbo. I'll go a little bit to the left, so it's going to
Yeah.
the high bit there. Should make it a little bit closer to the camera. There you go. Through there. Doing it easy, mate.
Yeah.
After the third try. Very good. So that's all about picking the right line. So what you're going to see here is the hill descent control. So essentially press the button. And essentially let it do its do. Makes a little bit of noise with the brakes grabbing on. Makes it easy and safer, doesn't it? Makes it easy. Just press the button again, or stop, press button, ready to rock and roll. Alright, so there's a little bit of, let's say, off-roading. To pretty basic little course, but it's going to give it a pretty good idea of what these things are capable of. And for the most, I mean, going up that hill didn't have the diff locker turned on, so you still got the diff lock in your arsenal as well, so pretty capable little cars. I mean, we're still running highway pressures, or probably above highway pressures at the moment, with the caravan on the back. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed really. Got up that hill, no dramas at all. And as I said, it's just, even off-road, it's just such a comfy car to drive. Alright, so this one's to go through the entertainment system, obviously, of the Rangers. So obviously everything's done through the other sync system. So you have a bit of music there. And then obviously you got your iPhone, make phone calls, all that sort of things. Go into your climate control, do your fan, all that good stuff. Obviously, do the seats, turn the seat warmers on, adjust the temperature and all the rest of it. And obviously you've got your navigation system, which is nice and clear. It's probably one of the clearer ones that I've seen lately. Obviously back to your home screen, which obviously shows you a bit of a broad of everything. So you get your iPhone, your music, that sort of things. And obviously you can tap on which one you want to go to, just like so. So it's a good unit. Can't really complain too much about it. It's nice and big, all the buttons are nice and big. Obviously everything's sort of laid out, so even if you're in something else, you can obviously get straight back to it by just pressing the button up top. So it's very, very well laid out. I think the way they've done it's actually quite smart. So it doesn't, you sort of don't have to go menus and menus of sort of trying to get into something. It's all sort of laid out nice and easy, if you know what I mean. So, and obviously you can do your climate control obviously down underneath as well. But obviously the idea is when you're driving along, this is sort of more your eye height, where obviously down here isn't. So obviously that's the idea. You sort of look at that and obviously change everything as you're going and all the rest of it. So well done Ford for that. Alright, so this is something that obviously the owners put on after he bought the vehicle. Was obviously a Toyota Caravan, 2.8 ton caravan, and if you're in this vehicle to obviously buy it for a touring vehicle or towing vehicle, the owner recommended that because the factory bull bar, sorry, factory tow bar, because it actually doesn't go far enough into the actual the hitch. Essentially the actual old tow bar was going up and down, so it wasn't going in far enough to sort of keep it stabilised. So Ford won't tell you this obviously, so when you're sort of jumping in to go to the deal, what I'd recommend, obviously, you bought this aftermarket, I believe? You bought it aftermarket? Yeah. So if you can, obviously get them to put this on factory, if they can get it obviously from the supplier. Obviously go buy one yourself, but the factory tow ball that actually comes with the unit isn't suitable for towing a 2.5 to 3 ton caravan, just because the actual problem is it doesn't go in too far enough.
It only goes in 90 mil.
Yeah, 90 mil. So this obviously goes in further, and it's obviously more of a heavy duty unit. But that was just one of the things that the owner sort of wanted to talk about in the videos, because this is something that he had to put on extra after he bought the car. So the dealer didn't tell him, but this is something that he obviously had to do to make sure his van was going to be sort of towed, comfortably, obviously behind the vehicle. Another thing as well to this vehicle is it's got airbags in the rear, just to obviously adjust the height, obviously when the van's towing, because obviously they're going to put a bit of weight on the rear leaf springs. And it's also got a long range tank, which towing the van, the owner was saying, he gets about 1200 k's out of the tank when towing, which is pretty good, because obviously they've got plenty of power and all the rest of it. So I think it was 17.8 litres or something. So from Albany to Geraldton, which is about 800 to 900 clicks, with a pretty strong headwind, he got 17.8 litres, and that's a 2.8 ton caravan, I believe. So it's a big heavy van, obviously plus pulling this and all the rest of it. It's pretty good fuel economy, so they're very, very fuel efficient. I think they rate these things at about 9 litres per 100 from factory, without putting all the other stuff on it, but 9 litres from factory is pretty good as well. But I'll leave it there, because that's the sort of things that sort of the owner wanted to point out, just because that standard hitch isn't going to be suitable for towing any kind of big caravan. So just keep that in mind if you want to buy this vehicle for towing. But that's about it. I mean, I think I've gone through the car pretty well, and if you've got any questions about the vehicle, obviously chuck them in the comments, and I can obviously put that onto the owner and he can sort of answer them for me. But that's another episode of 4x4 Camping and Adventures. As always, please subscribe, hit the like button, chuck a comment down the bottom But yeah, that's the Ford Wildtrack 2016. And look, out of 10, I'd give it a 9 out of 10 because I'm pretty happy with the car, especially off-road. On those gravel roads, it just drove like a car, which is the thing that impressed me the most. It just, yeah, I can't say it enough. It just feels like a car, so you don't feel like you're driving a big truck, which is really good. So it might be 70 grand, but I think it's 70 grand well spent in this respect because it's so refined, and I think there's a reason Range is selling so well in the market now compared to Hilux and that. Because I think they are on another level of, especially the Wildtrack, because it's got all the other, you know, safety features and the technology in it. It's definitely in another league. But I'll leave it there. I'll see you out in the tracks and trails, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.